In less than 6 months of its origin, novel coronavirus has already infected more than 31 lakh people across the world and has killed more than 2 lakh people. To defeat the virus, scientists across the world are now working on to develop a vaccine. More than 120 vaccines have been proposed across the world as per the World Health Organization. Which vaccine is promising and which vaccine is going to come first? To discuss on this issue, we today have Dr. Abel Lawrence. He is a professor of immunology at Sanjay Gandhi Postgraduate Institute of Medical Sciences, Lucknow. Welcome, Dr. Lawrence. Dr.
Thanks
Lawrence,
for giving the opportunity.
Dr. Lawrence, we heard about that there are two major approaches. One is the long-term vaccine, and that is the short-term. So what is the major difference between the two? And also, please tell us more about the Oxford vaccine, which has gone under human trial.
When you look at vaccines, there are the ideal vaccine in a normal peacetime, the ideal vaccine for a pandemic, and there are vaccines which can be started very quickly. So let us start with what is an ideal vaccine for a pandemic. When you have a pandemic, you generally are faced with an organism which is new to us, which we had not known before. Although already existing and known organisms can cause a pandemic. Like in this case, even though we knew about SARS, this particular strain of SARS is new to science, and therefore it was not possible that we could have made a vaccine in advance for this. However, there have been certain efforts from certain groups who have been preparing for such a pandemic. That is an ideal pandemic vaccine. These pandemic vaccines are best placed, created on a pandemic vaccine platform. So what is a vaccine platform? Vaccine platform is it's like a pre-developed carrier virus or a virus-like thing into which you can put any virus, part of the virus into it. For example, the spike protein is the most immunogenic part of the SARS. So you can put the spike protein gene into the pandemic vaccine platform and then use it as a vaccine. So the advantage is that many of the problems related to the vaccine has already been solved. So the two such examples we know of pandemic vaccine platforms is the well-known example of the Oxford vaccine and the French-led vaccine based on the measles virus. So what they have is that this Oxford vaccine is based on a chimpanzee origin adenovirus. And in this adenovirus, they can put a gene for another target antigen. For example, previously they have tried this with MERS, that is Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, which is another coronavirus disease. That is because they were expecting the next major pandemic to be from a coronavirus. However, what they have done now is they've taken the spike protein from the SARS-CoV-2 and introduced it into this virus. Since this has already been worked before, they could do it pretty fast. So the moment they had feared has come to pass. This is why they have been able to start a trial in advance. So another key requirement of a pandemic vaccine is that the production of the virus vaccine has to be scaled very rapidly. So both the French group and the Oxford group have developed this vaccine in such a manner they can scale it up. They were designed and for manufacturability. Both of them can use pre-existing facilities like that of Serum Institute of India to produce on large scale. So as we have heard from Serum Institute of India, they can produce 6 million doses by October and then subsequently 10 million doses per month. If you look at it, even that is too small when you consider the scale of the problem. So on the other hand, ideal vaccine on a long term should cover many antigens, and live attenuated vaccines have become the go-to option for difficult diseases. However, development of a live attenuated vaccine takes time. So one of the fastest approaches which are being pioneered by Codagenics is they take the genome of the virus and use computer software, bioinformatics to predict and make a less virulent, that is a vaccine which will not, we believe will not cause harm. The problem here is that this still needs to be proven initially in animals and then subsequently in humans, that this is actually safe as it is claimed to be. And this is even more important for a disease like SARS-CoV-2, where the actual mortality is not very high. Now we find that the mortality may be under 1%. So in such a scenario, we need the vaccine to be really safe. So this has to be proven. So and if we don't have a pandemic platform, there are certain approaches like DNA vaccine, RNA, basically nucleic acid based vaccines can be produced very quickly. You only need the genome sequence and you can manufacture them quickly. The challenge is that these vaccines they can be used to control an immune response, but they don't produce robust immune. So they are typically used in prime boost strategies. You first give a DNA vaccine, then use a conventional vaccine to amplify that immune response. And in this race between measles vaccine, measles based SARS vaccine and the Oxford vaccine, the Oxford vaccine has been shown to generate immune response with a single dose, whereas the measles based vaccine needs 2 doses. However, none of this is sufficient to say that a vaccine works. Ultimate proof that a vaccine works is that people who receive the virus should not be getting the disease. And how do we know that? That is using a clinical trial. You are giving a vaccine and a control vaccine to a group of people, and then you compare how many people in each group gets the disease. Then that will tell us how much protection is there. That is, number of the people who receive the vaccine should getting fewer instances of the disease as compared to those who haven't got it. So at the end of the day, it takes time to prove this safety. The number of people needed also will require the number of infection rate. So in a vaccine trial in a country with large number of cases, therefore will conclude faster than in countries where the infection rates are low.
So we heard about phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 trials. So please tell us on which stage the Oxford vaccine is, and also what kind of people are, included in the trial in all the 3 stages.
So the first, any medicine or anything given to people, the first step is the phase 1 trial. The purpose of a phase 1 trial is safety. Does it cause any side effect? How much dose can be tolerated? So you start with a small dose. If it doesn't create problem, you increase the dose to see how much can be tolerated safely without side effects. And generally, most of the time, phase 1 trials are tricky. Nobody knows what is going to happen. Although in the case of the Oxford vaccine, we have already had some small phase 1 trials with the MERS variant. So we know that what's going to have some idea of it is not completely new. And if you notice that who are the volunteers for this, they have been scientists in Oxford itself. The first subject to receive the Oxford vaccine is a microbiologist from. So only people who have scientific knowledge can possibly understand the complications of what might happen and then participate in it. I myself have been a subject for a vaccine trial in phase 1 trial. So most people are scared of it. If you understand the biology of it, then it gives you courage to take a calculated risk for the sake of humanity. So this particular phase 1 trial is expected to finish by the end of May.
How many people are there in the phase 1 trial, sir?
In the phase 1 trial, they have, I think, around approximately 900 people are in the trial, of which 500 will be getting the vaccine. And the people would not know what they have received because the comparator is another vaccine which is not targeted against SARS-CoV-2. So, but the numbers are too small to say any efficacy. Very few of those people might ever get a disease. So you need larger numbers, and the phase 2 trials will be many more thousand, I think 5,000 or more. And then phase 2 is showing some efficacy. At that stage, they'll be looking at how much of antibodies produced, how much neutralization happens. And then even larger trials are to finally prove the protection of this virus.
And
so
all these people
all
these people would be scientists or researchers or what kind of people are going to take this risk?
So very early, only people who know the stuff will be willing to do that. And in many places, phase 1 studies are paid also. People who volunteer get paid for it. Because there is no benefit to it. It is not given to people who actually need it. So many drugs are given to healthy volunteers and they are generally given incentives. On the other hand, phase 2 will be in high risk, probably medical personnel. And I would say, who are the high risk people in this thing? Anyone who contacts with large number of people, I would say airline staff, police personnel, all service industries at high risk. Maybe restaurants. So all high risk people will be good candidates for early trials. And then once high risk people have shown effectiveness, then we'll be going to high risk individuals. We have to prioritize the vaccine. Even if we make enough millions of doses, we will not have enough for everyone till maybe a year or two. So the vaccine will be rolled out in priority.
So all these trials are supposed to end by October. Then only we can go for mass scale production, right?
Very difficult to say. See, I'm talking about this September is an optimistic number. That is, if the number of cases of coronavirus continue as it is, then we might know by September. So that additional things can go on. Suppose there is a decrease in number of coronavirus cases in UK, it will delay. So the success of the trial depends on the number of cases happening. So, and secondly, most regulatory agencies would require trials. That is why we heard that Serum Institute might be planning to do trials in India. But India typically doesn't allow much phase 1 trial unless the drug or the vaccine has been developed in India. Even then, the regulatory regime is very tough, so most people don't do that. So that is why phase 2 trials might come to India probably, but that's up to the Serum Institute.
Apart from this Oxford and the French Institute, what other kind of approaches are being followed at present on the vaccine against coronavirus?
As we heard, the first vaccine to go on trial was an RNA-based vaccine. So as I said, the nucleic acids are fastest to be produced. mRNA is the simplest, is the first thing. But the problem here is that mRNA may not be stable. How do you transport them and so cold chain could be a challenge. And then there are companies which are developing DNA-based vaccine. DNA, unlike RNA, is stabler. They can be transported easily especially in places like in India, where cold chain can be a problem. But the challenge of DNA vaccine, as I said, is that the robustness of the immune response, etc., need to be proven, and it's very doubtful that a single dose will be effective. Then there is a company, Codagenics, with which Serum Institute has a tie-up, which is developing live attenuated vaccine. And as I said before, live attenuated vaccines will need more hurdles to cross before they are considered safe. Then there are other relatively easy approaches include recombinant proteins. The problem with recombinant proteins is that there's only a single shot at immune response, and the manufacturing of it will be a problem. When you are making large quantity of recombinant proteins, they have to be purified from whichever medium they are made. So this purification of large quantities of protein, etc., would require huge industrial infrastructure which has to be built up. So
we also heard about recombinant BCG vaccine against coronavirus. What is this? And also we heard that Serum Institute of Pune is working on this. So is it going to be an early product, or it's going to be long-term effect?
I don't see, BCG itself is a very complicated thing. So BCG is a bacteria. As such, it has very large number of antigens, and which are highly immunogenic antigens. So when you introduce BCG, which antigen, where the immune system will respond, can be unpredictable. And we know that BCG itself doesn't fully protect against tuberculosis. And you may ask, why is it still given? BCG is given because it prevents more severe forms of tuberculosis, like brain tuberculosis, disseminated tuberculosis, and which can tuberculosis which doesn't prevent is treatable. whereas disseminated tuberculosis can have complications even after treatment. So that is why, considering the risk benefit, Indian government is continuing to give BCG vaccine. However, most of the Indians, rather all of the Indians have been vaccinated. And when you have previous vaccination, that can complicate the administration of vaccine. But you might say that measles vaccines, everybody has received measles vaccine, then why is a measles vaccine platform being used? That is because it has already been tested in people who had previous measles vaccine, and it has been shown to produce immunogenicity. So whereas this BCG vaccine could be complicated, and in such a short time, that could well be a long-term project. As a bacteria, you may be able to package. Why stop with this virus? Maybe you can put in antigen from every coronavirus. On the other hand, in vaccines like measles and the Oxford vaccine, there is a limit. There is only so much payload that a platform can carry.
A lot of Indian institutes are also working on vaccines. I mean, I heard yesterday IIT Guwahati has announced that it is working on a vaccine in collaboration with a private firm. So how easy it is? I mean, is everyone is going to use the same ways as you mentioned, like measles, the base of the measles, or other viruses, other virus vaccine base?
Let me say something. In fact, this coronavirus has inspired the globe so much so that there are hundreds and thousands of research projects. So I would consider them in two categories. The ones who have been working on this for a long time, teams which have been working for the last 10 years to develop a vaccine against next coronavirus pandemic, versus people who are starting now. I would put my money on the ones which have been working all these years and diligently awaiting this moment.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, we need a vaccine in time. The faster even though the September, October time is the earliest date, if everything goes, it cannot happen before that. That doesn't mean that we will have a vaccine in October.
Then we
need, too optimistic.
Even if all the trials are successful, we need so many manufacturers. As you mentioned,
yes,
that Serum Institute can produce only 6 million doses, or maybe how many millions you said?
6 million initially, then 10 million per. Then the other manufacturers, even if you have
it
5 of them,
be.
make 10 million.
It may not even suffice to India.
Yeah, 50 million is not sufficient still.
Thanks for talking with us, Dr. Lawrence. Thank you.